Very good morning to all. Uh, I hope I am clearly audible to everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So, good morning. I'm so happy to be here with all of you once again, and we are having classes of MA History, and the first paper which I'm going to take from today onwards till the classes are going to happen in July. We are going to have. One paper that is historical methods and historiography, so you must be having very clear idea about that, and you must be having very good idea about how we are taking this paper, how we are discussing the things, what are the chief uh, 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 topics. The syllabus is with you, so just going to give you first of all the overview of syllabus, right? And then we are going to begin. First, let us discuss the overview of the chapter, and then we are going to discuss about your paper, right? So, firstly, let us first see your syllabus, okay? Specifically of this paper. So I hope the screen is shared with you, and huh. So we have, as you can see, the paper historical methods and historiography. The and the course objective is to help you all understand the evolution of historical writing in ancient and medieval worlds, and the intervention of historians in developing history as an academic discipline. So a close study of the translated excerpts from the primary sources will be used to train you all. The objective is to engage you in the in-depth understanding of the central issues in historiography, right? So we have four blocks in this paper. As you can see, we are going to start with the first block, understanding history and its theory. The first unit covers the meaning, scope, type, and importance and historical method. The unit 2 is going to take into account the relation of history with other social sciences. Unit 3 will see history, whether it's arts or science. Unit 4 will look into what are the theories of history, the schools of historiography. Block 2 will cover the research methodology, which is very important if you're going into research specifically. And also, see, in your last semester you have one paper on dissertation, so this unit is important for you to understand how you collect the sources, what's the selection of data, this historical research evidences, what is objectivity, what is subjectivity, what is bias in history, internal external criticism, synthesis of facts, and different types of historiography. Okay, so historiography, you need to understand what are the historical writings, what are the historical arguments. So Greek, Roman, Chinese, Indian, all these historiographies. So modern historiography, where you are going to see about the positivism, modernism, postmodernism, subaltern studies, analysis school, Marxist writings in history, right? So these are the important chapters in yours. So we, what we are going to today start with, we are going to start with the first two chapters, right? So let us start. Okay, let's start. So first comes the important books for your this paper. So I would like to suggest you 2 3 books for this paper if you want to consult. Even though we are going to give you references, notes will be with you and all, but if you want to discuss some of the important uh, or see the important books, I would like to share with you. One is this book. I hope it is visible with all of you. It's Concepts and Methods of Historiography, and this book is of KL Khurana. So you can write it, KL Khurana. The next book is of E. Dharan, the textbook of historiography. E. Dharan. These two books are very easily available online, and it's very cheap also. So you can take these two books. It will be very useful for you if you are going to start. So the first thing is my question about what is history. If I'm going to ask you, what is your understanding of history, or what do you think is history? What is the meaning and definition of history on your part? So it's a very good question, right? That how we understand history, and only on the basis of this understanding we find that various writings emerged. Okay, what are your thought processes, how you view history, all these impact history, right? So what is history and all? So when we talk about history, it's the oldest subject, right? And it's the natural instinct of man and compelled him to know about his past. So in this way, human history has been studied, recorded by scholars. No doubt all the important events have been recorded by almost all the countries. So history is very valuable subject which helps in conserving what has happened, what leads to the development in the country, what has happened in the past, how it affected the development of countries in a way, how it impacted the future, right? So that is why we find some of the definitions which are very important, and one of them, the most important one, is of E.H. Carr's definition, right? And it's very important, and I would like you to make sure that you are very well versed with this definition. Likewise, E.H. Carr, he rightly says history is an unending dialogue between past and present, and a chief function of the historian is to master and understand the past as a key to understanding the present. So, what E.H. Carr is saying, he says that past is connected with today's present. Okay, so whenever we are seeing our present, whenever we are looking into our today's problem, we have to go in our past. And it's a historian who is a master, right? And who understand that the problems of today can be resolved by going back into the past and understand the present. So all the resources have proved that in the early age, man was savage and lived like animals, but he was always keen to improve his life. So slowly he improved his living condition, but his stages of growth could not be recorded. Perhaps man have a desire to record event, but it was impossible to record the event. But these things we find through the paintings and all. For example, I would like to give the example of the paintings of Bhimbetka. Okay, so a systematic study of history started actually in the 19th century, but there were many historians who recorded, and first and foremost among them is Herodotus, who is considered to be the father of history, right? So do remember this point also, that Herodotus is the father of history, even though you must have an idea about it, but still I would like. The similar important definition is of R.G. Collingwood, who says history is a science. Okay, history is a science studying human affairs of the past based on the evidences. So it's very important to understand what is history, what is the definition of history, right? If you want to understand it. So in short, these two definitions are very important. There are other definitions too. Likewise, we can talk about Henry Johnson's, who say history in the broadest sense is the everything whatever has happened. Okay, but this definition is not proper, because history does not consist of everything, and everything that ever happened, right? So it is impossible to include all the events in the history. Likewise, if I would like to give example, when he says this definition, and if you are going to follow it, that means when we are studying the war, we talk about what kind of weapons that were used, what kind of strategies, what were the diplomatic skills that were used. But when he's talking about how many number of soldiers, until and unless it's important, how many number of soldiers, from where they have taken their weapons, how many kilometers they have completed, until and unless that point is very important, it's not useful for us to record. For example, when Akbar had attacked Gujarat in 1576, now he completed this whole journey in 15 to 16 days. Now this is important because such a larger area completed in a very shorter period of time, it's a very remarkable thing. That is why we note it down, or we give it importance, right? The same thing cannot be done with each and every uh, incident in history. I hope everyone is getting my point here, right? Now, we are going to continue. Similarly, you're going to find Professor A.L. Rouse. He defines history as a history that is essentially the record of life of men, societies in their geographical and their physical environments, their social and cultural environments that arises from interaction of one with other. So the society and its geographical conditions. So some historians have defined history to be a past politics. Likewise, Rainier says that history is nothing but the story of man living in societies. So, other writes history as a record and explanation of moral values. Likewise, Edmund Burke said that history is related to something changing as opposed to something constant, and whatever is so changing cannot be reduced to any principles. So, he also said that there is no historical person that has ever acted in conformity with any principle, but he has tried to justify his actions, right? So it's necessary to performance of his duties and responsibilities. uh, yes, the nature of history, right? So when we talk about the nature of history, so earlier actually history was considered only as a past event, only the record of the past. But at present, it is studied with critical approach, scientific manner. So a historian is required to study the events objectively, and his main job is to know the past, evaluate the events. His view explains the significance of past events happenings. So a historian is not only required to express his thought, but also to present them in a proper manner, and it is expected that he may gather facts, evaluate them, and also express it in a very presentable manner. He is not allowed to mix his personal ideas into historical facts. In fact, while writing, historian cannot be impartial, and his works are influenced by his biases, right? So the biases also impact a historian, right? So when we talk about the nature of history, we must know one thing very clearly, that history is objective as well as subjective. So even though it relies on the factual evidences, historians interpret all these facts, making history partially subjective, right? So also history, if we consider the main nature of history, we see and believe that history repeats itself. There are historian who believe that history is repetitive, the incidents repeat one and another, and events are correlated with each other. For example, these historians argue that if argue Ferdinand had not died, then World War would not have been broken out, right? Similarly, if Kalinga War had not happened, the Ashoka Dhamma, for whom he is known today, for whom Buddhism prospered, would not have been taken place, right? So history is not static, because whenever new evidences come, they can change historical interpretations, right? See, if I take the example of Indus Valley civilization, there are various you can say researches that are going on today, tomorrow. These researches are continuing, are continuous pattern, continuing today, tomorrow, every day they are continuing each other. So these helps us to re-understand, to reinterpret the history. And if the new methods we adopt, DNA testing, thermoluminescence method, radiocarbon dating, that helps us to date. And why this we today say that the time period of Indus Valley civilization goes back to 3200 BCE. So history is not starting. The moment we get a new source, the interpretations changes, right? And that is why history is a very interdisciplinary subject. You'll come to know it is related with sociology also, when you have to study the society, right? When you're studying the society, when you are seeing in the society what changes that has happened, how this society evolved over the period of time, how man changed, or how the societies changed. These things we come to know only when we see sociology. If we talk about British time period, we say that there was drain of wealth, we say there was economic decline, there was deindustrialization. How we say all these points? We say all these points because we see that again and again we go into economic history. Okay, mostly political science, because in history polity is very much related, much emphasized, even though it's not only a core area, it's emphasized. We see how the nations change, how the political environments change, how the that impacted the country. So history is very interdisciplinary subject, and these narratives are recorded in chronological structure. But history, one thing we need to understand, it's a evidence dependent. Okay, we cannot say anything. Okay, we cannot say anything until and unless we have an idea that okay, uh, uh, um, we have evidence, so we can say that Panipat war happened, right? I will not say that once there was a time that Akbar had killed Maharana Pratap, just only because I have imagined. Okay, I must have one proof. Or Prithviraj Chauhan killed Ghazni, right? I must give you some support, some source of evidence for that. So history is, I know it's based upon story. Some people say it's like story. No, it's more than a story. We have to prove it with the evidences, right? Next comes nature of history. So when we talk about the nature of history, I hope you have clarity over this. If you have any questions or queries, you can ask me at any point of time. You want to discuss that with me, right? So continuing with that, what are the types of history? Okay, So generally we say mostly there are various types to history, as we just discussed, is a very interdisciplinary subject. You cannot say that history is only this and that. No, history is very interdisciplinary subject. For example, one is a political history. So political history has been the most favorite kind of history. It draws the attention of historians at all the times. This attention is very natural because human life, whether in past or present, is always concerned with the great men, political institutions. So since in every society political activity revolves around some handful leaders of states, so therefore much attention is given to them than the common man. So they were regarded architects of the state and religious heads of the society. They were responsible for war as well as for peace. So the political personalities like Hitler, Mussolini, and others drew the attention of historians such as Sabha, Samiti, Parliament, that attracted them. On the other hand, all the activities of the state move around the political leaders, right? So the chief sources to know the past are the court records, the account left by the courtiers, the official orders. If, for example, Ashokan edicts that are very important to know about the political achievements, about the state's policy, about the patriarchal nature of the state, right? So, but in the present state, historians have paid attention to political factors, but still common man and their history is being emphasized by the people. Next comes social history. So social history includes mainly the social life of people, that is religion, morals, manner, food, dress, art, culture, everything. So in this field, German scholars like Fishtag, Reich, who first tried to record the social life customs of medieval, uh, they actually deals with medieval and modern Germany. Okay, their history. So so in fact, in the past, the scholars recorded only the life of rulers, feudal lords, zamindars. So since they paid some attention to religious, moral, and cultural factors of their age. So, but the life of common bosses was left untouched. From the accounts of the historians, one aspect is very clear, that everywhere social life was divided between the rich and the poor. The rich enjoyed high social respect. And from this kind of history, we learn about the old customs and traditions. Um, there are some scholars who have paid much attention to reconstructing the social history. For example, Gotts, Richard, Beatrick, Webb Turner, Hawker. They threw enough light on the social history of England. So that is why social history is again very important. In India, K.P. Jaiswal has written the book about the social institution in ancient times, and his book, the Hindu Polity, it's very important. So he is also one of the prominent scholars. Next comes economic history. So when we talk about the economic history, it um, if I talk about a historian review, he says that economic history is a story of various ways in which man has obtained a living. So, economic history is a kind of history which got its importance in the 19th century. Though before 19th century, the historians had thrown light upon the economic events, yet it developed only after 19th century. So during this period, Adam Smith wrote Wealth of Nation, and this book impressed the political thinkers like Rousseau, Montesquieu. They recognized the importance of the commercial relations in the development of civilization and culture. So, for example, after industrial revolution, economic history had actually got an impetus from there, where a detailed study of the number of economic institutions was done. Okay, and we study about the labor relationship, economic activities of labor in India. In terms of that, we see the permanent settlement and all through these, right? Then you are going to find another very important type of history, that is cultural history. A very remarkable type of history that studies the tradition, the beliefs, the art, the intellectual achievements, uh, 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 and the way a culture, specifically when I talk about India, the culture of India, the country like India, its culture developed, we see from this only. So it's very important for us to study the cultural history, because it gives you back your country, its base, how it developed, how its society developed its own culture. That the way we say our Indian society, it respects its people, right? It respects its society, it respects its people, it respects about the way we have developed as a society, our festivals, our dress, okay, our costumes, I would say, our food specifically. Okay, so culture is again a very important point of the type of history that we know, right? Next comes intellectual ideas, how intellectual figures like Kautilya and all, how they develop their ideas, their philosophies develop, right? Again, another type of history is military history, right? So how with the over of the period of time, the different types of battles that had happened, what were the strategies that were used, how it impacted the civilization, how it led to the rise of new empire, how it led to the decline of another. These are very important types of history that you study. So when we talk about the scope of history, it's very vast, and it covers the temporal scope, encompasses all periods, that is from prehistory to a contemporary age, right? It has geographical scope because it covers the history of different regions and continents. It has thematic scope, so because it includes diverse topics like politics, religion, science, gender studies, environmental history, right? Different schemes and scopes are there. Then you have comparative scopes. So history allows for comparison of different societies, empires, events over the period of time, right? So that's the scope of history. Please wait a second. Right. But before proceeding, let us have some questions. Please read the question, try to answer it, and I'll see. What's the origin Greek meaning of the word history? So I hope you have got the answer. If not, what's the Greek meaning of the word of history? Okay, try to answer. Note it down. I'm giving you enough time. Then, who defined history as a continuous process of interaction between a historian and his facts? Arjun Collingwood, E.H. Carr, Herodotus, Thucydides. Please note down this question. Try to answer it. And if you have any query or question, you can ask me in this at the end of this class, or after the class too. Okay. Then, which of the following describes the interdisciplinary nature of history? First, history focuses on past political events. History uses information from other fields such as economic, sociology, ecology. History is based solely on the literary text. History avoids cultural studies. So if you want, you can take a snap of this, or you can write it. Try to answer it if you're able to. If you're not, please note it down. At the in the end of the class, we are going to discuss all these. Next comes, what are the sources in understanding the history. So you have primary sources, secondary sources. So what are primary sources? Historical method is the topic you have in this in the first chapter, first unit. So we are discussing that historical method. So there are two types of sources, one is primary, one is secondary. Primary, the original source. Okay, for example, if I ask you to go and study Indus Valley civilization, then you're going to go to Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, whatever artifacts, the Great Bath, the Harappan seals. These are primary sources. Okay. For example, if I ask you to go to medieval India, the book of Abul Fazl, Akbarnama, and all that are literary primary sources. If I talk you to go through the world history or the modern history and you're reading Anne Frank's diary, that's a primary source, that's the original medium that is studied. So any kind of letter, document, inscription, okay, for example Ashoka edict, artifacts, diary, all these are primary sources. Okay, now what are secondary sources? Secondary sources comprise of the sources or are the knowledge work of all the people who have, with the help of primary sources, interpreted and analyzed the primary sources and written that, right? So these are the sources of history. We have in the primary source, we have sorry primary source, we have literary and archaeological sources. So literary sources are religious, secular, and foreign accounts. Religious, likewise you have Vedas, okay, Upanishads, Vedangs, these are religious literature. Secular literature are Arthashastra and all. In religious, Buddhist and Jain texts are also. Foreign accounts, your Hyun Sang's Siyuki, Fahian's work, Hu Hui, all these are important sources. Then you have archaeological sources, numismatic study of coins, epigraphy, study of inscription. Then there are other sources that are in the category of miscellaneous, that are oral sources, paintings. So what are secondary sources? They use all these sources that are there and compile the history, right? So the primary sources are original sources, they are of the time period that is involved, and they are unfiltered. Okay, and these are the sources which we use. So why these are important? Because they provide first hand information. It's on the basis of this only that historians could make guess, they'll be able to base the theories, the statement upon the kind of evidences. So this is the difference between the primary and secondary sources. As you can see in front of you, what is primary sources, what is secondary sources, difference is written. So primary sources, first hand evidence. Secondary sources, based on primary sources. Primary sources tells you about the events without adding any interpretation, while secondary sources is the interpretative source that analyzes and explains historical events. So primary source reflect the individual's viewpoint and bias. So it's a one-sided point of view. While this secondary sources, it's balanced, but it reflects the biases of historian. So primary source reflects the biases and attitude, while secondary sources attitude of the historian over the period of time that was produced. So these are the types of sources: literary, archaeological, over oral traditions, epigraphical, and numismatics. So this is the categorization that you're going to have. Archival, in these you're going to have reports, manuscripts, newspapers, gazetteers, letters, government documents, right? Archaeological, again, numismatics, coins, your artifacts, potteries, bowls, jars, and all. Primary works, then biography, autobiography, letter, any journal, magazine, book anyone has written. Okay, vernacular sources are the sources that are written in local language or person's indigenous language. For example, consider I'm in British time period, I know Marathi, so I'm writing a book in Marathi, so it is in vernacular sources. So why these sources are important? Because it helps us in authenticating the event basis on the source. It helps us to authenticate our argument, and there we take help of multiple sources to confirm events and fact. So we are aware about the biases in the sources, whether it's due to cultural, political, or personal region. It helps us in constructing a balanced historical narrative, right? So there is a continuity and change. So sources help historians to track the continuity or changes over the period of time. So this is historiography. What is it? Based on the study of the methods and principles through which history is written. It involves analysis of different interpretation of historical events by various historians. So we have different types of historiography. We have Indian historiography, right? We have Buddhist historiography, Jainism. We have Jatak tale. We have Vedic Sahitya, Pali Sahitya. Okay, that is written in Pali literature and all. You must have an idea about all these types of historical writings that were written over the period of time. Okay, so these are very, very important for us to know, because they sheds light on the history and how it was written over the period of time, right? So please make sure you have a very good idea about all these types of history. Okay, because it gives us a very immense idea about the history, the way it is written. Okay, so there are again different types of historiography. You don't need to delve into all of them. You just need to look into the important one. Apart from Pali, you have Buddhist texts. I hope you have an idea about Buddhist texts. You have classical Sanskrit. You have Hindi literature. Okay, if any one of you would like to give me any example of that. Nothing. Okay, okay, okay. It's okay. We are going to continue. Right, we are going to continue. Then there are various scripts. Dhammalipi, okay, that is used by Ashok. Then you have Nagari Lipi, that is used in Devanagari. So before proceeding, let us have some discussion over the types of sources. Right. So we before proceeding it, some questions for you, for just for your revision and clarity over the subject. So I would like you to know about some or tell me something about these answers. If you are able to answer it, good. No, then take a snap, try to solve it. If you are not able to do that, please tell me. I'm going to help you in solving all these things. Okay, or you can ask me these questions after the end of this class too, right? So first question, another question is, which of the following is an example of primary source? Okay, so you have to tell me what among the following is a primary source. It's about ancient Egypt, it's about ancient Egyptian inscription, a biography of a king, written centuries later, a newspaper article from the present about the ancient Egypt. Okay, if you want, you can take a snap of it, or else what you can do, write it down and take an example of this. So you have to tell me what among the following is an example of primary source. Then next question is, which of the following literature contains the stories of Buddha's previous life? Vedic, Jatak, Upanishad, or Agam? See, if the answer of this question is Jatak tales. Jatak tales is the story of Buddha's previous life. It tells us about the history of Buddha and how Buddha uh, 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 had in his previous birth life, how he managed to work, or how was his previous birth life. All these things we come to know from this. Next we are going to proceed towards our another topic, uh, right? So we are the next topic, again very important one. What is the relationship of history with other subjects, right? So how history is related with other subjects. So we are going to look into what are the subjects, what is the relationship between them. So you have studied about the types of history, right? um, the economic history, the social history, the political history, and all. Here we are going to look into the types of history and how these are interrelated with each other. So the one and the most important and the first one is that is very important for everyone nowadays, is history and economics. So history and economics very closely related to each other. It talks about the activities of man in society and how they are intimately related with the economic matters. So it's essential for a historian to have a proper knowledge of the economics of the periods almost in every age. So the knowledge of economic condition is necessary to be known by a historian, so that he could be able to draw a proper picture of contemporary society, okay, and its economic condition. So in modern times, history is quietly, or I would say intimately, related with economics. We study the economic problems, so it will be impossible for historians to write down history without proper knowledge of economics and the problems related to it. So modern historians must have thorough knowledge of economic crisis of the period, the policies of New Deal, and the economic and trading structure, so that he could be able to reconstruct the history of 20th century very well. Right now comes history and political science. So from earliest times down to the present, either through monarchy or oligarchy or aristocracy or democracy, dictatorship, that has dominated the life of man. Besides this, even democracy, once the elections are held, power rests only in the hands of elected of a few. So we find the historian not only concerned with tracing of the history of political processes by a narration of the episodes, but also has to learn the nature of basic political principles and fundamental forms of political institutions. Seeing the closeness between the two subjects, till very recent times, both in American and British universities, the teaching of political science was looked after by the history department. The same practice is also prevalent in some Indian universities, right? Then comes history and law. Okay, so historical development of legal system, or I would say the legal history. It's very important for us to know how laws develop, how actually we thought to have law is very important. So it tells us about the constitutional history, it explains about the evolutions of human rights, their legal frameworks. Okay, for example, how English common law had impacted the contemporary system. Next comes history and philosophy. Again, very important area. How philosophy had impacted the history. So history is study of ideas, and the ideas that has impacted the philosophy, its existence, its ethics. How ideas of enlightenment have impacted society, how philosophical inquiry helps us to contextualize the historical processes. Next, history and sociology. So these are again very intimately related to each other. Both of them are concerned with the study of man in society, but they differ only with regard to their approach. Social history deals with institutions and problems dealing with man and society, which are essential part of human life. Sociology needs history as much as history needs sociology in order to describe the social behavioral patterns. So that is why Toynbee remarks that societies are the atoms of which history is composed, and it is not individuals or nations but societies that form the components of history, right? So we can say that sociology is helping history to study the social dynamics, which is a study not of society at rest, but constantly in social change as well as developments. History and geography. So history and geography that examines that how it happened over the Okay, so history and geography both are very much interrelated with each other. So it examines human interaction with the environment over the time, how geographical factors affect the historical events and societal development, how historical events reshape the landscape, evidence by the trade and the trade routes. That helps us to understand history and geography. Then you have history and anthropology. So anthropology is exploring the cultures and societies, often using the historical data. So archaeology reconstruct the history through material remains. Okay, focuses on cultural evolution as well as practices, right? So when we talk about science and tech, how recent innovations happen, how technological advancement happened. If we talk about the industrial revolution, when we talk about the new military developments, how atomic bomb was discovered, how nuclear energy developed, all these are a part of science and technology. History and of science, technology and all. And lastly, history and arts and literature. So we know when we study about history, how it impacts the art of country, how it impacts the society. It reflects the artistic expressions, it reflects the literature. It's the art serves as historical sources that reflect the cultural and political context. If I want to give you example, I would like to give you example of mm, Ajanta and Ellora caves. You just see the paintings and you see the narration and story. Go through the Bhimbetka paintings. You'll come to see how they have beautifully narrated their life in just limited number of colors, limited number of events, how they have beautifully described in that. Then comes the literature. Now this literature is very varied, right? It's very varied because it describes you about uh, 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 society. For example, if I have to take the example of Kalidas work, for example, Mudra Rakshas. Okay, so all these are very important. It throws light on the people, the society, their works, how it impacted the history, how the nature of history have changed over the period of time. All these are very important when we are studying the history and we are seeing the relationship of history with other subjects. Okay. uh, uh, So when we take into account, we have different approaches to historiography. We have colonial, Cambridge, nationalist school, Marxist school, subaltern school. So colonial school is favored by James Mill, Mount Stuart Elphinston, Vincent Smith. They focuses or they justifies the colonial rule. According to them, the Britishers policy, the colonial rule was beneficial for the people. They have brought them out of their darkness and given them good space. When we talk about the Cambridge school believed that Anil Seal, Gordon Johnson, C.J. Baker, all these people believe that the Indian society and the Indian people were very backward and colonial rule was useful. Nationalist school from Jawaharlal Nehru, Patabi Siddharamaiah, all these people believe that the colonialists have exploited they have exploited Indian people, their economic resources, there was economic drain, all these have been emphasized by them. Then comes Marxist school, where we talk about R.P. Dutt, A.R. Desai, Bipin Chandra Sumit Sarkar, who says that Indian Indians were economically drained. It was economic exploitation of the people that was done. And lastly comes subaltern school, Gramsci, Ranjit Guha, Pat Chatterjee. All these people say that according to these people, if I want, that the voices of some of the people that were very important, the general masses, are very important for us to know. And these are basically impacted. Okay, these were impacted because the narration of history is such that nobody is talking about the general people, nobody is talking about the women, nobody is talking about the Dalits, nobody is talking about the unprivileged classes, nobody is talking about them, right? So when we talk about the subaltern school, they are talking about the voices of those who are unheard and who had not been given due importance over the period of time, and their voices too are important, that cannot be neglected. Okay, so this is all about your first two chapters that we have to study, which we have studied in very much detail. The two topics the first two units which we have explored today, we have discussed today, is I'm again repeating it for your understanding: meaning, scope, type, importance, historical method, relation of history with other subjects. Okay, in our next class we are going to look into history, whether it's art or science, and what are the different theories of history, what are the different schools of historiography. Okay, we are going to look into that. Until and unless you have any questions, you can ask. Feel free to ask any questions if you have. So no questions. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you very much. We'll meet in our next class. Till then, you can prepare these topics. If you have any question or queries, come prepared in our next lecture, in our next class. We are going to discuss it there only. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you.